You're listening to This Week in Ecommerce, the Ecom Nation podcast. Dive into the top online retail headlines with your hosts, Paul Waddy and Mel Chia. Let's load up the cart. This Week in Ecommerce, episode 37. I am Mel Chia, and back with me is Paul Waddy. Paul, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. You're back from the airport again.
I am back in an airport, so for a change. I was at your house yesterday. So.
Yeah, we probably should have done it then.
Yeah, probably. But, there were lots of kids running around, so always difficult with kids.
There was. How's your week been?
It's been really good. It's been a very busy week. I've been up here in Sydney, and then prior to that, I was in Melbourne, just visiting a few clients, working on strategies for the quarter ahead. Obviously, there's been some challenges as the whole market's been facing. So it's always good to make sure that you're spending that time to plan and strategize and figure out what the hell you're going to do, rather than flying blindly through this and kind of hoping that something gets better.
Yeah,
which I hear too much.
100%, and it's a good time to look at that because it's approaching the end of the financial year, so a good time for brands to start thinking about that next financial year and just what they're going to do to either keep growing or what seems to be a little more common is kind of turn things around.
Now, I got to, since you brought up financial year, it is an interesting one because I plan for a calendar year.
Yeah.
Like when I do my planning, I'm planning for calendar year. Like we started with a quiet January, and then we build up to obviously peak season, November, December. But then you obviously your head is financial year. Like, what's right? What should people be doing? How should we be thinking about planning?
If I'm honest, I look at both because I see it as a nice kind of way to reset every 6 months. So ideally, we want to be doing it in January and revisiting it in around this time for July. I find a lot of people end up doing it for the calendar year and then resetting it in the financial year because it's just maybe not accurate or it needs refreshing. So to be honest, I do both. I don't know which really comes first. Depends on who I'm working with, but I would definitely do both, and most companies that I work with would have probably like a calendar year 24 that then becomes FY 25. I don't think it really matters. It's more for me about that feeling of okay, let's start fresh. However the last 12 months have been, or 6 months, or whatever. This is an opportunity for us to regroup, and it's more of a bit of a talking, a bit of a kind of a nudge to say, hey, it's a good time to start thinking about strategy. So that's more just a date to kind of, there's no right or wrong thing. It's more just a date to sort of go, hey guys, let's have a reset. And I love a good reset.
Fantastic. And you've got a new thing which you're about to launch. I hope you don't mind me sharing the name here and outing it. Ecom 100.
Yeah.
Seen the branding. I'm in the Slack group. It's very exciting.
You've seen the branding. You're on the branding.
I have.
Yeah. Ecom 100 is target 100% profit growth. So Ecom 100 is just the honest truth is I really like working with new brands, but when you're doing one-on-one, you just can't work with that many. And I was passing up a lot of good opportunities with exciting brands time and time again. And so I just created a group training program where you come in and you work with me on a strategy and with other retailers, and you work on a strategy to get you that 100% profit growth in 12 months. And we break it into 6-week sort of sprints. And to sort of round out the coaching, it's based on 4 pillars. So I kind of get irked when people just talk about, let's be honest, Facebook ads all the time. And the 4 pillars that I really coach is perfecting your product, marketing strategically, mastering your finances, and operating effectively. And so I have a whole bunch of topics that I teach. And then I bring in experts like you to come in and beef up areas like marketing, where people can come in and listen to a marketing masterclass or a brand building workshop like we did last week, and ask a few questions. So it's part community where it's just great brands going through similar things, similar struggles, similar wins. It's coaching. There is still an element of one-on-one, but it's group coaching. But I'm particularly excited about the group of experts like yourself, like Justin Irvine, like Ali Worrell, like Natalie McDermott that I've got coming along to do cameo appearances. But I'm most excited really about putting this community together where we can kind of all support each other on Slack. But yeah, Ecom 100 comes from 100% profit growth in 12 months. That's the goal. And if that sounds like it's just doing a soft launch at the moment with 7 brands. And then we'll get it right for the month of May, and then we'll start scaling it. So if that sounds like anybody's interested, just give me a little nudge somewhere and we'll have a chat.
Sounds great, Paul. All right, we're going to dive straight into a few stories today. So the first one that we're going to talk about is that Google have delayed their deprecation of third-party cookies for the third time, and they've now pushed back to 2025. Now, this is one which they've been talking about for quite a while, and they have already deprecated third-party cookies in Chrome, and third-party cookies have not been a thing in Firefox and Safari for quite some time now. But the whole purpose of this is to try to make everyone's lives a little bit less invasive in terms of like privacy, improving the privacy. That's anyway what they're saying. But I also think it's very much about advertising as well. How do they improve their advertising machine? If I'm going to be completely cynical about it, so I look at this and go like, is this something which you speak to your clients at all about, Paul, or brands you work with?
Not really. I think that most of the brands out there probably don't know really what this means, if I'm honest. And I think from memory, this was supposed to be phased out by now, or at least they started last year, right, across Chrome.
That's right.
And I think that we've kind of all known that this is happening, but I don't think people really understand. I mean, we've always kind of spruiked the importance of first-party data anyway, and collecting that at every opportunity. But I don't think people really know, like, ultimately what implications this has for their marketing, or their Facebook ads, or their Google search, or whatever it might be. So, Mal, what does this mean for retailers? What do we need to actually look out for here? What are we at risk of here?
The biggest risk is that your advertising falls over, right? And primarily because you can't track and target people across different websites. So that's kind of the main thing which you need to be concerned about. But having said that, though, I would say that for the majority of retailers, the risk profile is so low because we use 2 platforms primarily. Most of our money goes to Google and Meta. And with Meta, they've got their own tracking already. Most websites in the world have a Meta pixel on there, which is sending data back to Meta. So Meta knows exactly what's going on that site. Right. So that is already safe. Meta's not overly concerned about that in terms of third-party deprecation, cookie deprecation. And you can bet that Google are not going to be doing this without knowing that their ads are still going to work, because that's obviously their number one revenue stream. So they don't want to upset the apple cart in that regard. So in those 2 fronts, I think you're fine. Where you're probably going to find challenges are when you start looking at other platforms, such as like Criteo or other advertising networks out there, which do rely more heavily on third-party cookies to be able to track user behavior and to retarget people on those sites. But even then, the majority of retailers aren't spending too much money in that. So again, the risk profile is relatively low. What you do need to do, though, is to make sure that you are capturing first-party data, like you said before. So making sure we are capturing emails, mobile numbers, things like that to help allow for the different platforms to be able to target customers better across the different websites which they visit.
Yeah, nice summary, and I think that's so the takeaway from that is like, Google's obviously not going to phase out anything that's going to drastically reduce one of their core earning platforms. And as you say, Meta is already, there's a pixel on however many websites already out there, so we should be effectively seeing no change. But nonetheless, we should continue to focus our efforts on primary or first party data so that it's ours.
Yep, absolutely. Now, another story which I want to look at is the NRA. Well, actually, not the NRA. The ABS came out with their March retail sales numbers, which saw for the first time in a long time a 0.4% decline in in adjusted year-on-year sales. Now they've called this the worst month on record, because with population growth and everything like that, we should never see retail sales drop. And Australia's population is growing, yet we have seen that drop. Any surprises on this?
This is such a weird one, because I'm just like in this cycle of spending essentially kind of needs to come down in a way to curb inflation. But then you see the price of mustard go up drastically, and you wonder if the retailers are actually just price gouging, or whether they are adjusting, or whether let's rephrase that, whether the retailers that matter are actually feeling that pinch and having to get more competitive with pricing. Everything that I see suggests that's not happening, because I think Coles have just announced amazing results very quietly, sheepishly, almost sheepishly, to sort of say, whoops, we did it again. We made squillions while you all suffered. And so I do see, I don't know how this works, honestly, because I see small businesses going out of business. And I see small businesses discounting, which is essentially the same thing, like discounting to get more competitive, to get the customer in. But CPI is not measured on dresses, it's not measured on pairs of sneakers. And this, I don't see personally, Mal, the cost of household goods going down, which is going to ease cost of living pressures. So I kind of feel like at the moment, and I think interest rates are going to be put on pause now. I don't think we're going to see too many cuts until next year. I'm told it's all sort of working, and I guess spending coming down is weirdly the desired result, but spending in Coles and Woolies is going up. Spending in small retailers, as we've talked about before, is coming down. I don't know that that is the intended result of higher interest rates. Nonetheless, spending is down where it hurts. I would have to say it's up where it doesn't hurt, or margins are up in Coles and Woolies and stuff. So I just feel like it's all broken, if I'm being honest. I feel like it's all broken. But to answer your question, it's not surprising. We speak to lots of retailers. We know it's hard out there. We manage lots and lots of media spend. We see lots and lots of results at Ecom Nation. We see the numbers. So we see that the new retailers collapsing every other week, while certain retailers just keep booming. So no, not surprising. Bit sad, really, and scary, because I think you said earlier it's a record, in terms of where we're at in the decline. It's a record poor result for March. So not surprising, but pretty concerning, right?
Yeah, look, and I think business insolvencies are also continuing to increase as well, as we've seen throughout the year. Obviously, some very blue chip brands who've unfortunately, had to go into administration throughout the year. Every week I'm seeing something coming up saying that the number of insolvencies, all the different retailers and hospitality businesses which unfortunately have had to go under. Every other week there's a builder which is going under. It's pretty alarming right now what's going on, and hopefully we can. You see this change as interest rates go down. We have people talking about mortgage cliffs and things like that. As people roll off their fixed rate interest mortgages to go into variable rates, suddenly their mortgage doubles, which has happened to a lot of people. So that causes further pain. And unfortunately, like I say, the people who are going to feel it the most are going to be retailers who are selling discretionary products. Which let's face it, is like the majority of the retail industry, because the only people who really have essentials are like the Woolworths and the Coles, who have products which you just can't live without, or a Chemist Warehouse.
Yeah, that's a good point. And those people coming off their fixed interest rates, that's still happening. If you fixed your interest rate 2 years ago, you're about to come off that into a world of pain, up to triple. And I really feel sorry for the business owners, because they become in these times they become vessels for. And Rob Godwin spoke about it. You become vessels for, like, yes, accepting millions of dollars, but you're just passing it straight back out. Add to that now that the ATO is incredibly bullish and aggressive at the moment, and they are giving out fines and penalties left, right, and centre. They're not wiping them like they used to. They're making you pay the interest. They're making you pay the fines. They'll tell you you'll get them back, but they are chasing money hard. And again, why is that? It's because of all the money that got dished out in COVID and all the fun times they've had in COVID, which was caused by the government, and now they just give it all back in ridiculous interest rate rises, put you under the pump, will chase our tax harder than ever. It all does feel broken. And there's a lot of founders out there who are doing really well to pay their staff, to pay their rents and so on, that are not paying yourselves now. And this is, I guess, again, why we kind of get a little bit worried when retailers out there get this advice that just spend more, just spend more, just spend more. I'm like, that's great. It keeps the economy going, but it does nothing to improve your life. And I just really the stress barometer, I reckon, of retail owners right now is through the roof. That's how I feel. The barometer of stress is through the roof. And people are just living on the edge as business owners. And I don't think there's still good stories out there and you can still get through it. But you've got to run a tight ship. And again, just a big word of caution to anyone out there who's being told hey, spend more money like that. That should sort you out. No, that should not sort you out. You've got to really, as we always talk about, try and focus on efficiency. And that's not just me and Mal saying that. I've told people, Kogan have done that and done brilliantly. Origin have done that and done brilliantly. This is the path forward. It's to just be consolidate, I guess, is the word you used last year.
But you talk about a broken business model. How do we start fixing it? Where does it need to start? Because I think a lot of people are kind of hooked on this, and even brands who I know quite well, and I think they understand it. And then we start talking about things, and there's still just this fixation with just looking at top line revenues. Oh, we don't want to go backwards. I'm just well, why can't you go backwards? There's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame in going backwards. There's probably more shame in going broke. So what would you rather be? Would you rather have your top line revenue decrease, but you're still in business, or would you rather just keep chasing that at all costs and end up out of business? Right?
Such a good point. So sometimes the quickest way to go forward is to take a few steps back and focus on your profit. And we should, at some point, I think we should do a workshop on just breaking down for people. Sometimes when you go past a certain point in particularly paid advertising, every dollar you spend is losing you 20 cents or whatever. And that's happening a lot right now. And you're right. Every now and then you feel like people understand, but then every now and then they go back to that old way of why are you increasing spend? Because I need the sales to come. And it's I give you a quick example, Val. There's a business this week that I was talking to who we found a way to chop, let's say, improve their gross profit by such an amount that would improve their bottom line by $60,000 a month. Now, generously, for them to achieve the same result by chasing sales, they would have to get $600,000 in sales per month. And that is not going to happen, that $600,000. But this adjusted to gross profit and certain cost of sales was not a difficult fix. It was a little bit of work, but it was just focusing on the right area. And it's just that mentality. And what's the answer? I don't know, education. Us keep talking about it. A balanced opinion out there, because it's all drop shippers and billionaires out there with rented Ferraris. I think it's just balancing that out with people who actually know what they're talking about, Tataras and Crowd Poppies and these businesses who know, guys, this is really how you run a business. It's hard out there. I think it's just trying to get more information out there and upskill founders, really.
Yeah, I mean, the foundation of it starts with getting the numbers right. If you don't have good numbers, you're going to fundamentally find it really hard. And we were talking about this yesterday, with just in terms of working with your manufacturers more to actually negotiate, and rather than just taking what they're saying and saying, okay, great, well, this is the price, this is the MOQ, and this is the price, and going, okay, well, I can only sell it for this, and you just accept that. You got to be more. You actually need to go in there with a more targeted approach and actually go in there and go, well, this is what I need to sell it at, which means that if I'm going to make my 70%, this is what you need to get it to me at. And then shop around, work with different manufacturers until you find a manufacturer who can deliver you the quality you want at the price you need it at. Because otherwise, you're already starting 2 feet behind the starting line. Yeah, because you've already got shitty margins and having to go from there.
Oh, that's it. And it's just it's looking at every aspect. If you're a wholesale business, look at your aged receivables. How long is it taking you to collect that money? For many of you, I was a wholesaler for 10 years. For many of you, 30% of your wholesale revenue will be out of date, like will be overdue. And probably some of you borrowed money to pay for that 6, 7, 9, 12 months ago. Apply the interest rate to that purchase order. Apply the time that it's taken you to get the sales, chase the sales, and the fact that if you're on accrual accounting, you've paid the GST, the month you've invoiced it, even that business model, that wholesale business model can bring you undone. So I think it's just, I don't know, we're just trying to run $1 million businesses as if we're mum and pa milk bars on the corner. We've got to upskill ourselves. We've got to be great business people and focus on the unsexy stuff a little bit as well, I guess.
I think part of that's like something which I've been talking to our team and other people about this as well, is that we have a tendency to want a quick fix. So we look at things and go like, well, if I do this and I increase my Facebook spend, whatever, I'm going to get all this extra revenue. So we look at it so simplistically because we're just looking for a quick fix to it rather than actually thinking about, well, what's the principle behind it? And if you actually thought about the principle behind, well, jack up your Facebook spend and run a 20% off sale and hit your targets. It's like, well, you're not really hitting your targets. So many people have done that. And one thing which I absolutely hate is when I hear people saying, well, we're going to order stock for Black Friday. We want to hit our numbers on Black Friday, so we're going to order more stock for it. I'm like, why? Why are we ordering Black Friday? Like you're ordering it to sell it at less? That makes
it used to be to clear old stock. It used to be to clear old stock. Now it's like, I don't buy stock to, I don't know. Anyway, the point on that, I guess, is like no one cares about Black Friday. Like no one's impressed by Black Friday if they're buying your business. They're looking at your worst months, not your best months. So you got to start benchmarking yourselves on January and February. And if you're making a break even at least in your worst month, you're fine. If you're, okay, there's some seasonal businesses and whatever, but if you're, we've said it before, if you're struggling, I can breathe again. Black Friday, struggling. Honestly, that's stress. And who will stress is supposed to be a business to improve your life, not make it worse.
Like a bit of stress is good. Like if you don't have a little bit of stress, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough.
Yeah, great.
But if you're constantly just like living on the edge all the time, very conveniently there's a boarding announcement, not my boarding announcement. But it is something where you do want a bit of stress, but not too much. Like if you are every day just not sure what you're doing and just like panicking all the time, that's not a way to live.
Yeah, and look, it doesn't, at the end of the day, it's not about what me and Mal say. It's like, just go and have a look at your business. In fact, don't even look at your business. Go and look at your bank account. Go and look at your tax return and see what you paid yourself in the last 12 months. If it isn't what you dreamt about, if it is less than what you would learn in a decent job, your business is broken. It doesn't matter what we say. And you can carry on and just put your hands over your eyes and, hear what you want to hear, which is like instant gratification of increasing your paid media, or you can get in and do the hard yards and actually admit to it and turn it around. But by the way, the best turnarounds, Mal, are with honest, humble people who recognize that they've made mistakes and who are willing to fix. For me, they are always the ones that have the best turnarounds. The ones that know it all, that it's all okay, and scale fixes everything, they're the ones that end up on the scrap heap.
That's actually really funny. I had a conversation with a new client about that, and they actually asked me a great question. They said, how do we work with you the best? And then that was actually one thing I told them. Like, you got to be understanding about the fact that we are going to be telling you hard things. I'm going to be telling you things you don't want to hear. And then I'm going to be challenging you on things. It's like, if you just think that we're just going to aggressively grow, forget about it. Like, I'm going to be telling you really tough things about your brand, about your products, about your business model. And you got to be open to that conversation. It's particularly if it's something which is broken. Thankfully, their businesses are broken. But if your business is, you got to be willing to actually hold that mirror up to yourself.
I agree. And sometimes people like you and I have to be the anti-fun because there's enough people out there telling you how amazing it is. And if it was that amazing, everybody would be doing it and we'd all be billionaires. But look, it's I guess the message is it is hard out there. And if you've got a decent product, decent brand, you probably are struggling a bit. You probably can turn it around if you're opening your ears in the right direction and willing to get your hands dirty. But those results in March were a little bit worrying, and batten down the hatches and just be smart.
Yeah, look, the good thing is there are plenty of success stories out there. There's a lot of brands who we both work with who are growing really nicely, and again, like they know they've got great numbers. They've got really great product differentiation. They know what makes them special in market. They know who their customers are. It's kind of those things which they just understand and they lead into, which is how they've been able to grow. Cool. On that note, I just had a child crying at your house. So.
Right on cue.
On that note, Paul, thanks for joining us today. Your feedback and your comments mean a lot to us. So please subscribe, leave us a comment. It really helps us get noticed on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And thanks for listening. Paul, any last words from you?
No, I think have a safe trip back home, Mal. As usual, if anyone resonates with something that myself and Mal have said, you can reach out and follow us and jump on Ecom Nation, where we're really focused on efficiency and growth. So reach out if you need help.
Thanks for listening.
Bye guys.